Hey guys, this is Bradley Benowitz, lead gadget in the ATM. Today is February 11th, 2016, 7:30 a.m. Eastern. We're going to do a couple small training things I want to run through that was asked about by Elizabeth. We mentioned the last time, I mentioned a couple things the last time we met, which was 2 weeks ago, and promised that I would do some training on that. So I'm going to do that first. And then we'll get into any Q&A. If there's any questions, post them on the events page. Okay. I'm going to walk through a little bit of a demo here. One thing I noticed was, let me grab the screen so you guys can see what the hell I'm doing. Give me 1 second. All right. So I see Ganti already has a question. Ganti, I'm going to answer this real fast because this was already answered. You said, "Hi, Bradley. I would like to know more about getting sites in the first page of SERPs in Bing and Yahoo." I know you covered some of it. Yeah, Ganti, I covered what I know about ranking in Yahoo and Bing the last time we met, which was 2 weeks ago. So what I'm going to do is copy the event page from 2 weeks ago, which, by the way, if you're ever looking for old events page, all you have to do is go over to events and then look at past events. Go into Google Plus, go over to events, and then look at your past events. So, for example, it says upcoming events and past events, and you should be able to find them. And this was the one from January 28th. All right, and it's covered right here. You see where I posted Yahoo and Bing ranking. This is what I know how to do to rank in Yahoo and Bing. It's actually fairly simple. So this was covered completely during this particular webinar. I would go back and watch that because I'm not going to rehash the same stuff twice. Okay, so let me just grab this URL and I'll paste it right on the page for you. You can go back and watch that in the webinar, and also there's notes on that page on how to do that. All right, so let me get into this training. If there's any questions, guys, post them on the page. I'll come back to those shortly. All right, so the question that Elizabeth had was, Bradley, on your last webinar, you touched on changing the www on domains to make them appear as subs. When I did that, I got a database error. Can you expand? I'm not sure why you did, Elizabeth. I'm not sure why you would have had that unless you, I don't know if you changed it in Cloudflare or what, but the only thing you need to do is change it inside the WordPress dashboard. So I've got one set up here that I created, a site that I just created this morning, just a test site for demonstration. You can see that this is just www.demo is the name of the site. It's bigbamboo.mobile.net was the actual domain that it's on. And this was deployed with the ATM. It's just a little test site that I threw up. Looks like it's missing a post. It doesn't matter. Anyways, so all you do is go into Settings, General. And then right here at the WordPress address, URL, and site address, you should just change it to www. And then once you click Save, it should prompt for a to sign in again so that you log in again. So let's click Save Changes and see. Okay, you see now, look at the URL. See how it changed? All it did was just change the URL. That's the only thing you got to do. And that adds it to the www version. So let's see if we can sign in again. There, I'm back into the dashboard. If I come over here and I refresh, you see now the URL just changed to www. And that's it. So that's all you have to do is once your site is built, if you build on a root domain, then once your site is built and deployed, then you log in, do your normal cleanup stuff if you want first. It doesn't really matter. You can change it to www first, or you can do the cleanup first and then change it. It really doesn't matter. But you just log in, go to Settings, General, and you change the WordPress address URL and site address URL to include the www version of it. Okay, so just add that in and then scroll down, click Save Changes, and it'll prompt you to sign in again. Once you sign in again, you'll see that your changes have been made to the URL. Okay, you see it's working just fine. And that's all you have to do. If you made any changes anywhere else, and you shouldn't have to do anything in Cloudflare or anything else, so it should work just fine. If you're having issues, then I don't know what caused that specifically, but that's all you should need to do. And by the way, if you're buying domains, like expired domains, which is what I do now, instead of buying brand new ones, oftentimes if you're looking at the metrics and Majestic SEO, you'll find that the www.version usually has better metrics. And so that's why I use the www.version to protect the root domain anyways for them. Although I have seen recently that sometimes even you doing that will still flag a domain if you end up catching a manual penalty, like a spam penalty, a manual action within Search Console, and it will carry over to the root, but it's still better than, in my opinion, better protection than nothing. So I'm still using the www.version. Plus, I find that those have better metrics for the most part. About 9 out of 10 times, if you're looking at expired domains in Majestic SEO and you look at the root only, and then you look at the www.version of it, which would be the subdomain version of it, you'll see that the www.version has better metrics. And so that's why I tend to use that version also. Okay. So that was it. Very, very simple demo. Let me go on to the next demo. Okay, so the other question was, Ganti, I don't have any additional points for that. That's all I know about Yahoo and Bing. I don't spend a lot of time trying to rank Yahoo and Bing sites in Yahoo and Bing, because that's pretty much all that I'll do. And I focus most of my attention on Google, but it is something that you can do. There's nothing else, no other tricks I know about for that. So sorry. She said also you touched on changing the IP on the root domain to put on another server to set up a single page site where we are building only on subs, but want something on the root so that it will index more quickly. Okay, so that's fairly easy to do too. All right, so guys, and any of you that are watching this that are like new to the building ATM sites, this will be a little bit more advanced here. It's simple to do, but it's a little bit more of an advanced concept. So don't worry about this kind of stuff right now. If you're just focus on building sites, learning how to build sites. That's it for now. But those of you that are already familiar with building sites or proficient at building sites, this is something that you can do that, according to Don, I haven't tested this much, but he was saying that if the server pilot page shows on the root domain, because you're building on subs, that the subdomain sites tend to take longer to index because the blank server pilot page is showing on the root domain. Now, I haven't tested that. I believe it. If that's what he says and he's tested it, which I'm sure he has, then I believe it. But if you want to take the root domain and add something to it so that it doesn't have that blank server pilot page, then this is something that you can do. It's very, very simple. So go set up a hosting account. Most of you probably already have a hosting account somewhere else other than your lead gadget server. I mean, your ATM server, right? So go to, whatever host you want to use, Bluehost or God forbid HostGator or something like that, something cheap, and set up a hosting account. Then you're going to get the IP of your host. Okay, it could be a shared hosting, because all you're going to do is upload you can add WordPress to the root domain if you want, but it's unnecessary. If you could just upload an HTML page to the server for that site, but you're going to identify the IP address to that server for your hosting account, and then you're just going to go into Cloudflare and you're going to change. And here I'll show you. This is the demo that I set up was on another domain called Shop Big Bamboo. I'm starting to get into. I'm hoping to get into doing some Shopify stuff, and so I bought this domain. I don't know that I'm going to use it yet, but anyways, I'm inside my Cloudflare account. I had built a demo site on this domain as a subdomain, because every time I show something live, it gets de-indexed. So this is just a demo site so that you guys can see what I'm talking about, and hopefully I'm not actually building a site on here to rank or anything, not yet. If I do, it'll be a Shopify site. Okay, so here is not an ATM site. Here is the demo that I created. Let's see if this works. Okay, no, it's not working here, and that's only because my DNS is screwed up from making so many changes this morning. Let me open up a This is a remote server that I have, a remote desktop. We'll go take a look at it here because the DNS should be clean over here. DNS cache, I mean. All right, so you guys should be able to see this. Okay, so I'm looking at this. Is if you take a look at the domain here, I know it might be hard for you guys to see on your screen, but it's showing dnsdemo.shopbigbamboo.com. Okay, so this is the same test site that I just showed you on the bigbamboomobile.net that I just used as the example for changing it to the www version. All I did was just, again, deploy this site on a subdomain, dnsdemo.shopbigbamboo.com, to show you that this is a lead gadget site or an ATM, you know, a site built with the ATM deployed on a subdomain of shopbigbamboo.com. Okay. So, but if we go take a look at just the root domain, which is shopbigbamboo.com, let's go take a look at that. I've got a one-page HTML site added, which is just an HTML file, right, that I just uploaded to the server. The root domain is pointing to a different IP address than what my IP address is for my ATM server. And you can see that this is just the demo that I uploaded. One-page HTML site for root domain. This should help the ATM site index since the root has content on it. Okay, so if you take a look, we go back over here, and we're looking at shopbigbamboo.com. We're going to go to the DNS settings in the Cloudflare account. You'll see that DNS Demo is pointing to my ATM server, and shopbigbamboo.com, which is the root domain, is pointing to this IP, which is the IP address that I'm using from my shared hosting account that I pointed the root to. So my point is when you add a domain to the ATM, it's going to automatically add it to the Cloudflare account that you have attached or connected to your ATM account, right? And it's going to assign the root domain and the www version, the CNAME. It's going to assign the A record for the root domain to your ATM server. And then the www version is just a CNAME, which is going to point to the root domain, right? So, but if you add subdomains, the subdomains are all going to point to the same server IP. It's going to be an A record pointing to the same server IP, which is your ATM server. Okay. But all you need to do is if you want to push the root, point the root to a shared hosting account that you can upload a file to, like an HTML file, an index.html file, or if you want to install WordPress, which is perfectly fine as well, all you got to do is go in and update your at record or your A record for your root domain to point to the IP of the shared hosting account or whatever hosting account you're using. It could be dedicated, VPS, it doesn't matter. You just point it to the IP address of your server. That's all you need to do. And then once you're done, you go to your cPanel account, if you're using cPanel for your hosting account, and add that domain as an add-on domain to that cPanel account. And once cPanel recognizes the add-on domain, then you can add files to that public HTML folder for that domain. And whether it's an uploaded HTML file or if you want to add WordPress to it, it really doesn't matter at that point, because all you're doing is you're mapping the root domain to a different IP. The subdomains are going to be mapped to your ATM server. Okay, so that's how you do it. Very simple to do. It only takes a couple minutes. That's a good question. You can do that. You should be able to do that with a redirect code in the header. Let's go take a look at it and see if that'll show up as actually Cloudflare should be taking care of that. Yeah, Cloudflare does that. Ganti was asking, how do you redirect? How do you set up the www version of it if you're doing what was the exact question? If you're doing one-page HTML sites, landing pages, how do you make them www.domain versus HTTP domain? Well, Cloudflare is going to make the redirect automatically because that's what the CNAME here is. So as you can see right here, I just changed it to www, and it resolves to the same location. Okay. Now, if you want to force it, to where it every time somebody tries to visit one version of the URL, like for example, Shop Big Bamboo without the www, to resolve always to the www version of it, if that's what you want to force it to do, then you could do that in the htaccess file, which is what I would do. in the server that you've uploaded the file to. Just add an htaccess file to that location, the folder that you have designated for this, and just set up a redirect to rewrite engine on, redirect, and then set up the htaccess to always resolve to the www version of it. Okay, very simple to do. For those of you that don't know how to do that, let me open up a notepad file. If you're not familiar with htaccess, just contact your host and ask them to do it for you. Then they can do it. But let me blow this up a little bit. And you would do this. You'd say rewrite engine on. And you would do redirect 301. And then you would put, in this case, this would be let's see, shop Big Bamboo. It's like that. You would save that as an htaccess file. And what that's going to do is anytime somebody visits the www or the regular version, the root version of it, it's going to automatically redirect as a 301 redirect to the www version of it. And it'll do it instantaneously. You won't even see it, right? It'll just automatically resolve to that version of the URL. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful. Okay. That was pretty much all the training I had. And it looks like we've only got Ganti asking questions. Guys, if you're watching and you got any questions, ask them now because otherwise we'll wrap it up. I've got a ton of work I'm working on. By the way, just as an update, I'm working on training 2 site builders now, 2 VAs. So I'm recording a bunch of training videos and notes, training notes, step-by-step notes like I do, with a linear process on how to build ATM, sites with the ATM so that I can train these 2 VAs. And I told you guys I would share my notes with you. Obviously, I'll strip out any data that's specific to projects that we're working on. But as far as the process notes, I'll be sharing those with you guys when they're done. I'll be working on that a lot more today as well. I'm trying to get all the training completed by tomorrow afternoon because I'm trying to get my VAs starting full time next week on Monday. So I'll be sharing some of that information with you guys. Again, any specific data specific to my projects I'm working on will have to be stripped out of the process outline. But whatever I can leave in there, I'm going to, and I'll share with you guys just as like basically a Google Doc. And then I recommend that if you're going to end up using it, that you transfer it over to Trello boards, which if you want, I could possibly do an overview on Trello, like how to set up Trello properly for this kind of stuff, because it's really helpful for VAs, virtual assistants that you're training to have it in a Trello board format, because that way you can actually track the progress that they're making as they work through the training, the working procedures as I call them. So, I'll share that with you guys when I have it ready. Possibly next Thursday it'll be ready. I'm assuming it will be, but once I get all the training created and all the process outline completed, then it'll be going back and refining it so that I can make it, boil it down to its most efficient form. And then from that, so it's probably, that's what, they're called working procedures, and they're something that constantly can be updated and evolved. But I'll give you what I got once I'm comfortable with them. So possibly by next Thursday. And then I highly recommend that you guys go out and hire a VA, start building your sites, because that way you can scale very quickly. So, okay. Any other questions, guys? Trello, Ganti, Trello.com, Trello.com. Right here. This is a project management application. It's really, really good. Look, let's just do a walkthrough right now. We'll probably do it again once I get the training completed for the VAs. I'll show you guys how to do it. So I use the hell out of Trello. Look at this. I use it all. I mean, this is how I manage all my team. This is how I train all my VAs, and this is how I basically train all of our virtual assistants. And we've got 18 full-time VAs now. We got, and the 2 that I just hired for these ATM site builders are 20. That makes 20. So I've gotten a pretty good system down for training VAs and then managing them as well. So title, let's just say this is going to be ATM build demo. So just go sign up with Trello.com. It's free. I'm going to put this in. I guess I'll put it in the site build team. All right. So inside of Trello, what's great about this is these are called lists here. And I'll show you how to set up lists right now. And then again, I'll probably go through this a little bit more in depth once I have the training done. But do save that, create a new list, doing, done, help. Okay. Now, from here, these are called lists. And what I like to do is we're going to just call this one task 1. Okay. Now that's not what we would do. Like well, let's go ahead and give this more of a real example here. We're going to say, I don't know, open project notes. Okay. We'll add that as a task. Then let's add another one. Let's see, like add domains to ATM. Okay. Generate keywords, something like that. Next one would be create custom lists, something like that. Okay. So this is a to-do tab here. And these right here are called cards. Okay, so this whole thing right here is called a Trello board. So you create a board for a project, and then you create the lists because this is how you identify what's being done and the progress that's being made. I'll walk through that in a minute. But then for each task, right, because a project is nothing other than a series of tasks, right? So for each task, you create a card, and a card is what this is here. If I click on that, this is now called a card. And in the card, I can give it a description. So this is going to be for, let's say, for each project, you will receive a detailed set of notes describing project details. It's something like that. Okay, that's just a summary of what this card is about. Then what I always do is if there's an attachment, which again, I manage everything, all my VAs, we all work through Google Drive, and that's so that we can all collaborate on documents all at the same time in real time. They're updated in real time. So I do everything in Google Drive. So for example, I would have a set of project notes that would be in a Google Doc or a text file, a Google Drive notepad file, either one, that I would have with the project notes detailing. It would have a list of the domains that are going to be added to the ATM, as well as the site name for each one of those domains, because we, you know, especially for national builds, we target 1 keyword per site build, and then you know, some notes about the keyword research, like keywords to use as seed keywords to start doing keyword research, that kind of thing. So I would have an attachment. I would click on attachment, and I would go over to Google Drive, and I would select the file that I would add here as the notes, the project notes. Then for the checklist is, if you add a checklist, this is where you put it. I put in step-by-step instructions like open Drive file for project notes. And we're going to click add, and we're going to say add domains listed to ATM account workbook. Guys, I'll share a lot of this stuff with you. Obviously, I can't show you like a lot of my internal documents, but I can show you how to set these up, and you can develop your own, okay? I'll try to help you as much as possible. But take seed keyword list and generate full keyword data using Power Suggest. Something like that. Add generated keywords to a Drive spreadsheet. Add Drive spreadsheet URL to ATM account workbook, something like that. Okay. And anyways, this is just an example, guys. So this is how a card works. Okay. So a card will essentially have the project it's a task. A card is nothing other than a task. And then you break the task down, add any supporting documents or attachments, any links to external websites, links to supporting documents, whatever, will all go in the attachment section. Then your checklist is the step-by-step to break that task down into a very simple process. It's literally linear. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And this is how I've been able to train VAs to pretty much do anything that I can do in my business. It's by documenting the procedure, which I do first in a Google Doc, like as an outline. It's a process outline. Once I develop the process outline, then I come transfer it over to Trello boards, or I have a VA that I've hired that actually creates the Trello boards from my process outline. That way I'm not wasting my time doing data entry. Somebody else can do that for me that I can pay, $3 or $4 an hour instead of me having to do it myself. So this is how it works, because what's great about this is, now let's say that we had all these cards filled out for the entire project. Then these are the to-do lists. So this is stuff that has to be done. When the VA starts going through it, they're going to drag this card over here to doing. Okay. And that way I can come watch this board and I can see what kind of progress they're making. When they're done with this, well, first of all, they're going to open this up and they're going to go through this checklist. And each time they complete a task, they're going to, and I mean, I'll do stuff like, say, like literally scroll to the top of the screen on the right side, click, save here or save now or something like that. Like, so I'll put it to where it's like so granular that you could take somebody cold off the street that's never done any of this kind of work. And when they go through these checklists, they'll be able to learn how to do that task. Okay. Because they'll go through here and they'll check each one of these boxes as they're going through. And if they stop, I can see the progress is only 3 out of the 5 tasks for this particular task. 3 out of the 5 steps are completed. Okay. But once they're completely done, they'll move it over to done, and then they'll grab the next card and bring it over to doing. And that way I can track the progress to see where they're at. And if they get hung up on something, for example, let's say that during this process, there was some sort of issue, like they couldn't use, let's say that they, for some reason, they couldn't open the Power Suggest software. Maybe they had lost the license info or something. I don't know, whatever. The point is let's say that they couldn't do the trouble here. They couldn't complete the task here. They could write a comment in here and say, hey, Bradley, I cannot access Power Suggest. Right? They could save the comment. This would be a VA writing this, and then they could take this board and this card, excuse me, and they could move it over to technical help. And when it goes to technical help, then if I can actually come over here, this little drop down, and you can see how it says subscribe. Well, that's when I set up the boards for my VAs, I subscribe to the technical help list. And what that does is anytime a card is dragged and dropped into the technical help list, it will notify me via email that something has been dropped or added to the technical help list. And so that way I know immediately, the moment that they drag something over and drop it in here, I know that they're having an issue. And all I got to do is log into my Trello account and go click on the board here, and then I can read their comment. I can see exactly where they stopped along the process, and then I can read their comment and say, oh, okay, they can't access Power Suggest, and I can contact them. I communicate with all my VAs via Skype, but I can contact them in Skype and say, okay, what's the problem with Power Suggest? What's the error message you're receiving, or whatever, and then handle that for them so that they can get back to work. And then as soon as they're done, they can drag this back over to doing. Once I've resolved that technical issue, I can they'll drag that back over to doing, and then they can proceed with the work on that, on their tasks, if that makes sense. So it's a very, very powerful tool, because what happens is, especially if you're hiring multiple VAs, some VAs are obviously going to perform better than others, especially in the beginning process when they're learning. And so I set up these boards to get the VAs to go through the process and to learn how to do whatever task it is that I would need them to do. But then also, after they've learned the task, then it's about becoming more efficient. So I can monitor how quickly, by opening up this, like you assign a board to each VA. So each VA gets a copy or a clone of the original board. So when you first create the board, you create a template, save it in a templates organization, which is essentially like a folder. And then you create clones of the template and assign those clones, each clone to each specific VA that you have. But that way you can actually look at all the different VAs and say, okay, this guy here, he's running through these cards very, very quickly, while this guy over here or this other VA over here is seems to be having trouble. They're moving a lot slower. So then you can either contact that VA and find out, what's the problem? Why are you having difficulties? Is your internet slow? Whatever the case may be. Or you can determine that they're just not very efficient workers and let them go. And so it's not only a great tool for training, but it's also a great tool for monitoring the progress and the efficiency of your VAs. Then once I've had a VA go through a board 3 or 4 times, they typically by that point know the process, and I don't require them to go through to use the boards anymore, because by then they're already familiar with the process, and they don't need to go through here and click all these check marks for every task, because then that slows them down. So it's really just a process of training and then helping them to get through to where they really learn the process and become efficient. Once they become efficient at building without or doing whatever task it is without needing to use the boards, then I tell them, yeah, absolutely, you don't need to use the Trello boards anymore. Just do what I told you to do. And then they just give me progress reports daily via my email or whatever it is that I've set up for them for progress reports. Hopefully that makes sense. Very, very powerful. It's free too. So it is a paid app. What is paid? Trello? Since when did Trello become paid? I don't think so. I've never paid for Trello. I haven't paid for Trello yet, and I've been using it for years. Sign up. It's free. I don't know what you're talking about, Ganti, unless you're talking about something else. I have no idea what you're talking about, because I haven't paid for it yet. And I've used this for, you guys saw, if we go take a look at my profile, I have a ton of boards. So anyways, here we go. Boards up here. Look at that. I got a bunch of them, and I've never paid not one dime to them. So anyways, oh, is it a paid app? I'm sorry, Ganti. No, it's free. It says right on the homepage, it's free. Sign up. It's free. Sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying it is a paid app. But anyway, sign up. It's free. No, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Okay, so through one account, you can manage several VAs, keeping the information to each of the VAs separately. Yes, again, when you create a board, so like, all right, let's go over here back to the ATM build demo. All right, if we go to site building team right here, if we go in here, this board that I just created, what the hell happened? There it is. Okay, it just was a cache issue apparently. After I've created the original board, so let's go ahead and put this back to its original state, which is what I would do. I always create the board first in its entirety, okay? And then I name it, whatever I'm going to name it, but I would call this template, okay? And once I've got the template created, then what I'll do, and let's walk through this, actually. Let's go through this. Let's go back to profile, and I'll show you this. All right, so under profile, what we want to do is we want to go to teams. Okay, so teams are essentially organizations. They used to be called organizations, but it looks like they call them teams now. I have a templates organization or templates team, and that's where I take all of my templates that I've created originally, and I keep them there. That way they're unchanged. There's no editing being done to them unless I'm editing the template, but there's no VAs making changes to the boards, moving stuff around and everything else, because I want one version that's clean that I can use as to clone to clone or copy. Okay, so I've created an organization there. So if you click the plus button, you'll see create a personal team or create a business team. whatever. If you're using a free account, it's going to be probably personal anyways. So, and that's all I use. But create a personal team, okay? And once you create the team, just name it templates. So then when you take your boards, let's go back over here. And I've got that in the site build team. You can see the team right here. But what I want to do is change team. So what I'm going to do is move this down to my templates team, okay? And I'm going to click change. Now you can see it's been updated to templates. Once you have that saved in templates, then you come over here and you go to where it says more. If you're not seeing this, by the way, you'll see a little show menu here. Click on that and you go to more, and then you go to copy board. And for copy board, you're going to copy that board into and assign it. In this case, I'd say ATM build, and I would say, let's say I've got a VA's name and his name is Larry. I would put something like Larry. Okay. And then I would assign that to the team that I have set up for my ATM builders. And in this case, it would be a site build team. Okay. So ATM build Larry site build team. When I click create, it's going to create this new, it's cloned it. It's made a copy of it. And it's been assigned, well, the title has been assigned to Larry. I still would need to add Larry to the board, which I'll show you how to do that in a second. But it's now in the site build organization or the site build team, okay? And that's where I have, if we go back over here for a minute, go to profile, site build team right here. If I click on that, we can see members. Under members, I could add Larry and any other VAs that I have that are going to be working on specifically building sites for me. Right. So if I have 5 VAs, I could add new members by just adding their Trello email here, which you just tell your VAs, go sign up at Trello, send me the email you used to sign up. You add them here. That adds them to this organization, which in this case was the site build team. Right. And so anytime you look at the boards in the site build team, they're going to see, okay, this is the board that I'm supposed to be using. My name's Larry and I'm supposed to be using this board. So then they're going to click on that board. And they're going to be able to start moving these things around. But because otherwise they'd be messing up your template. So you always want to keep a clean version of the template in a separate organization so that nobody can mess with it other than you, right? Then you assign the boards to specific VAs, and you add move the board into the organization or the team. You can add the members of that team into the team organization, okay, so that they'll all see the boards together. But then when you come over here, you're going to add members. You click on add members, and you would select the member that you're assigning it to. That way, only that one VA can access and make changes to that board. And that's how you keep everything separate. Okay, because if you start adding multiple team members to one board, it's going to get messy fast. So I don't recommend doing that. By the way, when you create the new board and assign it to a VA, just remember to come over to their technical help and click on subscribe. That way you get notified anytime somebody drops a card into the technical help list, because otherwise your VAs end up stopping because they run into an issue and they stop working. And especially if you're in different time zones, like my VAs are in the Philippines, most of them, and they're 12 hours time difference with me. And so if they drop something into technical help, or if they have a problem and I'm not notified of it, then it could be, half a day lost of work time. Right. And so that's why I said, if you subscribe to here, then I'll get notified immediately and I can contact them and say, hey, what's the problem? Or I can come look at the card and see where the problem is and look at their notes and say, okay, I can resolve this very, very quickly and get them back to work. Okay. Just signed up with Trello. Thank you, Ganti. Will you change over to Slack from Skype? I use Slack to talk to my partners, Ganti. But you can see I got that open right here. I do all my communications with my partners in Slack, but I do all my communication with my VAs in Skype. I just prefer it that way to keep them separate. Where do you find or hire VAs? I use onlinejobs.ph. As part of, I developed I learned this through somebody else, but we developed for Semantic Mastery, my coaching business, how to create hiring funnels, outsourcer hiring funnels, which is fantastic because it does 90% of the screening for me. It's an automated way of hiring VAs, hiring and screening VAs to where When you get to the very end where you have to actually interact with the potential candidates, it's just an interview that's set up from that point, and it's essentially a completely automated outsourcer hiring funnel. Unfortunately, I can't share that with you guys because that's proprietary info that we only have shared within our Semantic Mastery training group. If you're interested in learning that, you can certainly join Semantic Mastery, which is our coaching group, and then I'd be happy to share that with you there. But I can't share that outside of that because it's stuff that is specific to our coaching business. Okay, only our mastermind students get that training. But you can set up hiring funnels. Kind of give you an overview, but what I'll do is I'll go to onlinejobs.ph. I'll post a job request or a job offer, a job opening that I'm looking for applicants. And then I give them specific instructions within the job application or the job posting, telling them how to reply. And then I have a Gmail account set up for that whenever somebody replies, if they have a very specific subject line that was given in the job posting, it will send a canned response to them that has it's like an autoresponder through Gmail that will automatically send them, as long as their subject line was what I told them to be. It will send them a reply via Gmail automatically without me having to do anything. That'll have a link to a Google form, and the Google form is a set of tests. It's 5-question test that they have to do, not a test to test their skills. It's a test to see if they can follow instructions. I don't care if the VAs have skills, because I'm going to train them using Trello boards how to do everything that I want them to do exactly the way I want them to do it. So I'm not testing for skills. I'm testing to see if they can follow instructions. And so I send them to a Google form that has instructions with the fields, the form fields to fill out with their the answers to their questions or the tasks that they've completed, whatever. Then they submit that. And all the submissions from a Google form go to a Google spreadsheet. I can get notified. I can set up notifications from the spreadsheet that every time a form has been filled out and submitted, that it notifies me. I can go review them, which I usually will just do like once every other day. I'll go take a look at the responses in the Google form from the forms or the Google spreadsheet. And then I'll from there, any of them that have passed that first set of tests by following instructions properly, they will get sent an email from me with a link to a second set of tests, okay, which is another Google form with a second set of tests, again, not to test their skills, but to test that they can follow instructions and their commitment level to getting the job. Because what happens is, like, from that point, and I'll finish my thought first, and then I'll tell you why this works so well. But from that point, they go through a second set of tests, and whoever comes out on the other side of that second set of tests, those are very, very strong candidates for employment. And then what I do is contact them with a personal email. So it is a manual process from that point forward, asking them what their Skype username is and setting up a text interview chat session via Skype. And then at that point, it's about a 15 to 20 minute interview process that I use, which is not, once again, it's not to test their skills. It's to test their communication with me, because it's absolutely critical that they communicate well via Skype with me, because that's how I manage all my VAs. So the 15 to 20 minute chat is more about seeing how well they'll communicate with me, because obviously a lot of mine are in the VA or our VAs are in the Philippines or in India or something like that. And if their English is too broken, then I can't work with them. Or if the conversation that I'm having with them, the text chat seems forced, then they're not a good fit. If it's a conversation that goes well and smoothly, and they have fairly good English, then they're a strong candidate, and that's when I'll make them a job offer. Okay. If this is paid account, you told me it's free. Yes, it's free, Ganti. Trello is. Yeah. Anyways, the reason why this works so well is because, like, for example, if I set up a job posting on onlinejobs.ph, this is typically how it works. Like, if I'm setting up for an SEO assistant, I'll end up having the job up for 3 days, maybe 5 days, the job posting up, and I'll get about 80 people maybe clicking. And I've done this over a dozen times, and that's why I know that these numbers are pretty consistent. But I'll get like 80 people to click on the job posting, because it'll give you analytics inside on onlinejobs.ph to see how many clicks or how many views the job posting got. out of those 80 people, usually about half, so roughly 40, will submit or send me an email requesting the next step, or to, you know, saying that they're interested in the job. However, out of those 40 people, about, like I said, about half of the people that click through to see the job offer, usually only about 25 or so of them, 25 to 30, so about, you know, 2/3 to 3/4 of them will have followed the instructions that were in the job posting and sent the correct email, or an email with the correct subject line, which starts that whole automated funnel process, the hiring funnel process. The ones that sent me an email that didn't have the specific instruction or the specific subject line, they're automatically eliminated as candidates because they didn't follow instructions in the job posting. And if they can't follow instructions on the original job posting, they're certainly not going to follow instructions down the road if I hire them. So that eliminates people that don't read instructions right off the bat. The ones that do, they get a canned response because it gets sent out by Gmail automatically to the first set of tests. Then that first set of tests they go through, a lot of the times, about, you know, 25% of those people that did the original email correctly will end up dropping out because they don't want to go through tests. Those people are the ones that are like, oh, I'm not going through tests for a job. I just want to be interviewed. Well, guess what? I don't want them. They don't want it bad enough. So out of those 25 to 30 people that originally sent the correct email, it'll end up going down to about, you know, 20 or so, 18 to 20, roughly 15 to 20, somewhere around there. Usually it's around 20. I only lose a few people on that first step. Then after they go through that first set of tests, a couple of the things that I look for is their internet speed. I have them go to speedtest.net. I have them download Jing, or screencast software, you know, so that a screen capture software. And I tell them to go to speedtest.net, take a look at their, you know, do a speed test so I can check their internet connection. Because if they got a really, really slow internet connection, they're probably going to be eliminated because it's going to slow them down. They won't be very efficient. Have them take a screenshot of the screen test or the speed test. They submit that via the Google form, do a typing test if their job requires much typing. I have them do a typing speed test. All of that. There's a few other questions. Then they submit the form. I go look at the form. You know, like I said, about every day or two, I'll go in and take a look at the form and look at the responses. Anybody that has followed the instructions and also has a decent internet speed and good typing, whatever the criteria is that I set for the original test, then I will go send it's just one email with a carbon copy to each one of the potential candidates. And I'll send them to the second set of tests. So like I said, out of 25 or 30 people that originally sent the correct email, I'll usually have about 20 people that make it through the test. And out of those 20 people, the first test, out of those 20 people, it'll be, you know, 12 to 15 roughly that will have qualified to go to the second round of tests. I'll send out a mass email to those 12 to 15 people to send them to the second set of tests. The second set of tests is a bit more involved. Again, I'm not testing skill. I'm only testing that they can follow instructions. And then from there, a lot of the times I'll lose about half of those people because they'll be like, oh, this is bullcrap. I'm not going through all this for a job. I just want a job. And that's awesome because then I know the people that really want the job, right? It eliminates those that are just that are lazy. So usually from the 12 to 15 that I sent to the second series of tests, I usually end up with about 6 to 8 candidates on the other side of test 2 that are ready to be interviewed. And then from there, I'll set up the Skype chat interviews, and it takes about 15 to 20 minutes per. And I usually end up with 2 or 3 good candidates. So it's like 80, 40, 20, 10, 5. Like that's pretty much how it works through the entire process, because I'll go through the text chat interviews, and even some of the candidates that performed very well on the test, if they don't communicate well, that eliminates them from potential hire, because I need to be able to communicate with my VAs via Skype, because that's how I manage my business. So it works really, really well. We've done it over and over again. And all you do is for different, like if you're hiring for different positions, is you just change the funnel tests around a bit. The hiring funnel tests around a bit to be a little bit more task specific to what they would be hired for. Again, I've got training on that, guys. It's inside Semantic Mastery if you're interested in it. But outsourcer training, that Lee, it's in well, it's in for you, Lee, because it's part of the Curation Mastery course. It's in there, and we've talked about it. God, bunch of times. But the hiring funnel, it's also in the master class too, Lee. It's in the master class. It's in the very beginning. I think it's like week 7 or 8. Go log into the master class site and look. It's the outsourcer hiring funnels. I think it's week 7 or 8. Okay. And also, if you go and log into the Curation Mastery course, there was the bonus module. We added that as a bonus module inside Curation Mastery. Okay. It's the exact same training. Okay. I have done the filtering of VAs with specific instructions. Hi, Andrea, by the way. I haven't talked to you in a long time, but loving the idea of Gmail canned responses and interested in your hiring funnels. Brilliant. Andrea, aren't you in the mastermind? I think you are. So there you go. Go to the, masterclass. You can log into there, look for either week 7 or 8. It's right on the homepage. It'll show you. It'll says outsourcer hiring funnels, and you can watch the training there. Or I polished it up a bit and put it as a separate module, as a bonus module in the Curation Mastery training. Okay, and if you go through there, it was cleaned up and polished a little bit more with some additional supporting documents in there. So check it out. Okay. Anyways, it works really well. Some of our students say that they're not having as good a results on onlinejobs.ph as what we've had, because we got such a large team now. Whenever I need to hire anybody new, I just contact all my VAs in the Philippines and say, hey, do you guys know anybody that wants a job? And I usually end up getting, several candidates that they're vouching for, which is great, because now that puts them on the hook too, right? So I tell them, don't send us somebody that's going to make you look bad if they're not good workers. And so now we get friends and family members of our existing team members, which makes it great because we don't even have to use the hiring funnels for that. And it works really well. And guys just start out hiring one VA and then a second one. By the way, here's one other little trick. When you hire a VA and you train them, you put them through a process to train them to do whatever task. And guys, that's the thing about this. You can train a VA to do absolutely any task in your business. I don't care how high level you think it is. And you're the only person in the world that you think can do what you do. That's how I used to think. And my business hit a glass ceiling. I couldn't expand or grow anymore. But once I realized, and I read a book I think his name is Sam Carpenter. It's called Work the System. That $9 Kindle book changed my business entirely. And that's where I got the idea of creating working procedures and documenting my tasks so that I could start to outsource and scale. And from that point, it really did change my business. And so anything that you think that only you can do, it's only because you're thinking small. If you're able to document how you do that task in a very linear fashion, step 1, step 2, make it very granular. It's incredibly tedious creating these working procedures. There's no question. It's painful creating them because it's so tedious. But once you've actually documented the task into or the procedures into tasks that are broken down in a step-by-step fashion, you can actually review that task and start to find areas that can be improved upon to be made more efficient, eliminate steps entirely or combine steps to become more efficient. So it can make you more efficient. But then once you've done that, you can put them into a format like this and hire somebody cold off the street, and they'll be able to perform that task that only you thought you were capable of doing, because now you've got it in such a granular fashion that it's dummy proof, in other words. And so that's how you can start to scale. But my point in telling you this is, when you develop a working procedure for a specific task and you've trained a VA to do it, as part of your hiring, when you're thinking to hire VAs, you should be looking especially in the interview process, you should be asking your VAs if they're interested in management position down the road. Say, look, after you've been trained and you've become proficient at the task that I'm going to teach you how to do, would you be interested in a management position? Are you capable or interested? Do you desire to help to train and manage other virtual assistants or subordinates, right? Ask them that and look for people that have that desire, that ambition, because then when you hire that VA and you train them, now you can task them with training new VAs so that you can scale your business. And it's not you having to train the VAs or monitor them. You can have your first hire VA, the one that's already proven themselves to you by learning the tasks and performing well, as doing the training for you. And remember, you've got everything documented in Trello boards, so it's not like you have to duplicate the training again, right? It's already done. And then you can have your VA who's doing these tasks every day. And here's the thing, all of us that are running our own businesses, guys, we try to do everything ourselves, right? We wear many different hats. So we're always scattered. We're always shifting gears throughout the day, which is, there's a lot of inertia and momentum and stuff that we do. So it takes time to shift between one task and another to get into the groove and that kind of thing. But when you have VAs that are trained to do specific tasks and that's all they do, then they're incredibly efficient at it, because they're not shifting gears all day long. They're doing the same thing over and over again, repetitive. It's like almost robotic to them. And so they become very, very efficient. And that's how you can scale your business very quickly. But again, like I've got multiple teams, and we've trained a VA from each one of our teams that we've identified as being a team leader. And now whenever we add additional team members to that particular team, that the team leader VA is responsible for assigning the Trello boards, the training to them, monitoring their progress, providing additional support and training to the new hires to get them up to speed. All of the subordinates within that particular team answer and submit daily reports to the team leaders. The team leaders don't even notify me of the daily reports unless there's an issue that needs to be resolved. That way I'm not spending all my time micromanaging all the workers, right? That's the team leader's job. And so that, again, that's how you scale a business. And highly recommend that you guys start doing that, because, you know, that's how you're really going to be able to get from being a solopreneur, a solo act, to running a true business, you know. And again, that's a lot of stuff that we talk about inside our mastermind and even our master class, which is like our intermediate thing. But yeah, Andrea, go through some of that stuff. Shouldn't just be collecting digital dust on your hard drive. It should help you. Lee says he's reading the book. Yeah, Sam Carpenter's Work the System. Great book. Again, for a $9 book, it changed my business entirely. It's totally worth it. Okay, guys, it's almost 8:30. I got to go. I hope everybody found that useful. When I go get the training completed for my VAs for ATM site builds, I'll share what I can with you, and then you guys can create your own Trello boards out of it. Hopefully that's helpful. Thanks for everybody being here. This was a long session today. We don't usually go this long. So, all right, we'll see you all next week. Thanks.